My name is Craig Mattis.
And I'm Jack Giles.
And Jack and I are here together for a very good reason. We are both huge fans of music from the 80s. I've been listening to this stuff for like 40 years.
Music from 40 years? How old are you, Craig?
41.
40, yeah, check your math on that one. And actually, I think you've got your calendar a little bit mixed up. We're actually here for the Abounding group taping for the Abounding small group study.
Oh, that's right.
I think the music one is tomorrow.
Oh, that's good. Thanks for the reminder on that, Jack. Well, for this Abounding group session, we want to kick off this part of the video showing you the all-time most watched Trinity video groupings.
Oh man, you know guys, I've got to say, I really enjoyed our group. Can you believe it's been 5 years since we started this?
It's been 5 already?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many groups can say that?
Does anybody want an appetizer?
Yeah, that sounds like a great idea.
I wonder what's going on over there. It sounds like a party.
Yeah, I'm gonna go check it out.
Okay.
We should get the sampler. I like little variety, some new things once in a while.
Well, we always get the garlic cheese bread and there isn't any on the sampler.
So Craig had asked me the other day if our groups thought about multiplying.
What? I know I brought up the idea about the sampler platter, but that sounds like too much variety to me.
Why would we want to do that? We've all become such good friends.
You know, you guys aren't going to believe this, but that's a group of folks from Trinity.
I thought I recognized some of the people walking by.
I didn't hear anything about a church event here tonight. No. Did you?
Not me.
No.
I wonder what's going on.
I'll go check it out.
So what about adding members to our group?
Oh, that almost sounds worse. Just think how uncomfortable those new people would be.
If we get too many people in our small group, can we still be called a small group?
Yeah, and we wouldn't be able to meet at a restaurant like this.
Wow. You guys aren't going to believe this, but that's a small group.
What?
That's what they said.
Can't be. There's too many people.
Do they meet here all the time?
I didn't ask.
We'll go find out.
Okay.
That sounds like 200 people in there. That's not a small group.
Can you imagine trying to figure out who's going to bring the coffee?
Who'd be in charge of the appetite?
Hey, there go some more members from Trinity.
Wow. How many people do you think they can fit in there?
I can't believe it. That is all one group of people from a small group that started at Trinity. It's now 20 groups, and they started their group 5 years ago, just like us. This is their annual get-together.
In just 5 years.
You know, Craig, I've seen that groupings video any number of times, and while it's fun to see the group that's meeting at the restaurant around the table, I'm really intrigued by the mystery group that's meeting in the other room. And I think we're going to get a chance to hear from those small group leaders that we're going to refer to in this video as Tim and Tina Trinity. Let's hear from them.
The first time we got in a small group, they were starting a prototype or turbo groups, and we got this letter. We looked at it and we said, why is he asking us?
The man is nuts.
The man is nuts. We were just recently, we were only in the church for a few months at most. So that was our first impression, and we thought, well, we'll try it. We went, and God sucked us in, and it changed our life.
But one of the things that was said to us, because I was very insecure about being asked to be in a leadership position when my faith was really so new. And the thing that he said to us was, you have to remember that it's not about your ability to lead, but about your ability to trust God. And I thought, okay, I have no thoughts that I can lead a group, but I do know that I can trust God.
Jack, did you catch that part about how important it was to trust in God to get that group off the ground?
I really did, and really in spite of her lack of ability too.
Well, I'm anxious to see more. Let's watch the next clip.
We ended up doing this, and it was 12 couples over, I don't know, 3-4 months maybe. And we were taught how to lead. We were taught how to lead, and after that, we had to go out and find people to start a group.
But that was our first real exposure to life and community. We had never opened the Bible with, or at least I had not, with friends before. Never prayed. I had never really read the Bible out loud in a small group. The first night that we sat in a small group and somebody asked me to read, I thought I was going to pass out. I was an absolute nervous wreck. But we really grew during that first group, being exposed to different people. Sandy Ringel used to talk about listening to Christian radio and Christian songs, and I had never even known that there was Christian radio. So I went home and started to listen because I wanted to know, what that was all about. And so interacting with those people began to change my day-to-day life.
I remember we went to one person's house and we walked in and it was Christian music playing in the background. I would have never have thought to do that because I never listened to it. Never. And, I grew up in the church. The only time I read my Bible pretty much was when I was in a Bible class. Never prayed out loud unless it was a common table prayer, the Lord's Prayer. Never did it. So that, it did. It started to change us and how we viewed church. I remember saying about 6 months after we joined Trinity that I could not believe how many people we knew. And that would have not happened if we were not in small groups, because we just would have not had that community. We would have gone in, maybe we would have met some people, maybe not, but it would not have been the network of people that we knew and got to know on a much closer basis than even some of the people I would consider lifelong friends.
So when we started that first group, after we finished the start-off group, we had to start figuring out who God wanted us to invite to our group, which was pretty scary because we were new members to the church pretty much. We didn't know who to call, and we surely did not know what we were going to say to those people. And, you have that fear of rejection. And so we talked and we prayed about who were we supposed to invite, and started making phone calls. And I really don't think that anybody that we called said no.
No.
So that was exciting, and that was affirmation that we were trusting God and that we were following Him. And we didn't know what we were doing. I mean, we went to the first group and, we just believed that if we follow God's leading, that it would all turn out okay.
We had enthusiasm.
We did.
Craig, I really enjoyed hearing their story about how they launched a small group after being part of a turbo group experience, And one of the things that really struck me was their comment about leaders growing. And isn't it interesting how so often we think as leaders that we're the ones that are going to provide the growth for other people, but in fact, most often we're probably the ones that are growing the most. They talked about growing in terms of their knowledge of Scripture, and growing in terms of their ability to pray out loud, and that's a cool thing.
Well, I thought they showed a great example too. For potential new leaders, in that they didn't have all this incredible confidence in the world. They were scared, they're fearing rejection. But again, they brought that trusting in God part. They trusted in Him, and not that this would be a prayer answered, for every potential new group or new leaders, but that they talked and prayed about who they were going to invite. And God, answered that particular prayer for these particular group leaders, and that everyone said yes.
Yeah, has that ever happened to you? I mean,
No, no, for sure not.
Yeah, but that is an important thing, though, isn't it? Leaders inviting people to their group, and probably not everybody will say yes. But the importance of just inviting people to be a part of the group experience.
And I think too that. Again, God answered that prayer for them about just giving them all those people to say yes, but I am totally confident that for all of our leaders, that God's going to step in and help them out with their new groups. So hey, want to watch some more?
I'm ready.
Okay, great.
We learned some really good basics in going through the group with Jack, and we just tried to stick to it. We made it a point to have an empty chair in the room, so that everybody in the group knew that it wasn't necessarily all about us, and that there was always an empty chair for somebody to come in. The group was never closed. We also had a covenant where that was part of it, as well as just some of the things that we would do in the group, and that's helped set the guidelines for that first group. I mean, we had fun. I mean, you have to have fun with it. No one's going to want to go out, especially we were doing it every other week then, but nobody's going to want to spend 2 hours if it's going to sit around and everybody's going to be somber and, oh, well, let's talk about this and what do you think? I mean, you have to have fun with it. And I think we were able to do that.
Many of the people that we were with were in the same type of position, at least that I was, that my faith was very, very new and very exciting, and I wanted to learn, I wanted to grow, and I wanted to share that with other people. I think that is very contagious, and when somebody in the group is explosively growing, it just lends itself to everybody else getting excited too. And then when you see things happening in each other's lives and you're sharing that and you're praying for something and you're answering answers to prayers, that it just all feeds on itself, and God is glorified. And it wasn't just us as the leaders that invited additional people to come, but it was the group. Like Greg said before, we had the empty chair, and the empty chair was not our job to fill. It was whoever God was bringing there, whether it was through us or another group member, and we were very focused also on raising up additional leadership so that we could grow the group again. When we started the group, we knew that we would want to continue to multiply the group over time when we got big enough.
Craig, did you hear all the things that they mentioned in this segment? I mean, they talked about group covenant, the empty chair, the fun and enthusiasm, the raising up of new leaders.
Yeah. Well, they write small group ministry books on everything that they just said over the last few minutes. Pretty amazing. One of my favorite parts that they shared was that thing about the empty chair. I mean, how huge. Here, for this session, we're talking about the abounding group. And for an abounding group, it is key that you've got a group that's got an empty chair, and that empty chair, it's a place where it's both a place for inviting someone new to the group, and it's just also a symbol that the group it's not closed. It's all welcoming to new people.
And did you notice who was doing the inviting?
It wasn't just the leaders.
It wasn't just the leaders, it was the whole group. And also how important that is because it aligns with the mission of Trinity of loving people to Christ.
Right.
So, and we always want to be mindful of that.
Yeah, and they had that, as you mentioned before, key to have that group covenant, a real foundational piece, which, something that they would say in their group covenant also would be like something about the empty chair, that the group is, to multiply and to reach more people for Christ.
Yeah. And it sounds like they also made it clear that from the very beginning of the group, everyone understood that eventually the group would multiply so that they can indeed reach more people for Jesus.
Right. And that whole thing with multiplying is that you're raising up new leaders too, and they definitely hit that subject too. So it wasn't just ending with them, they're raising up new leaders so they get those new groups off the ground.
Sounds like an abounding group to me.
Definitely. That's why we're showing them here. So hey, let's watch some more from them.
The tensions were always the same. They never, whether it was the first group or the second group, the tensions are always the same. People have gotten to be so close that they don't want it to stop. They don't want it to end. They're afraid that these friendships are going to end, or maybe the support won't be there that we had over the last year or year and a half, whatever it was. We had that when we had our first multiplication from our first group. That was there, and we had to work through that. I think the other thing that was kind of a consistent thing through that is we have to remember why we're doing it. And I think if you appeal to people saying, somebody had to, you were invited into this group, and if it would have been closed before that, you would have never been in here. We wouldn't have got to know what a wonderful person you are. You wouldn't have gotten to build these friendships. And there are a lot of other people out there that really want to feel this, and it would be such a shame not to let other people experience that.
When we first started in small groups, we didn't really call it multiplying, we called it birthing. And I really almost like that term better because that is kind of what it feels like when you're a mother and you're expecting and it's your first child and you don't know what to expect. It's very scary. And when you have been with these people that you love and you're very intimate with, the thought of going in two different directions is very scary. It's painful to have that separation. And when you end up in the two groups and you realize that those friendships that you had with the other group are not going to end, then you can start to experience that real deep-seated joy that you have.
The first time we birthed, we didn't know how to do it. We decided to, like in Acts, when they were trying to figure out who was going to replace Judas. So we decided to draw lots. And we came down here to Trinity, and we came to the sanctuary, and that's what we did. Which was another thing that I probably, a year ago, I would have thought that was weird too. Because that's it's a little more of the supernatural kind of thing, and it worked out great. That was definitely a God idea, because it worked out well.
When we birthed later groups, we didn't always do it the same way. We didn't cast lots every time. One time we divided geographically because that's what made sense. Another time we did what we called a natural birth, and that was that there just were different friendships that had been formed during the group that made the most sense to divide that way.
Or we would just say, we're going to go and start a new group, and maybe a couple people might have gone with us, and the rest stayed with that group. So that's another way that we birthed.
Probably our biggest prayer as we led groups over the years. I prayed for XAs and LAs, which are the assistant leaders, because to really birth successfully, it can't just be about one leader grabbing a second leader, but you have to have that leadership coming up from behind. So if you have 2 sets of leaders that can start the group, and the other group has also 2 sets of leaders, then you're working from a strong base. And you know, that leadership rises, I think, with the prayers of the people.